Business. Zeta is now up to 90 miles an hour. Please be careful. Do not take this one for granted. It's supposed to hit somewhere along the Mississippi River, mouth of the Mississippi in southern Louisiana. And we have some hurricane warnings out for a large portion of that area. In the studio, it is the mayor of Madison, Mississippi, Mary Hawkins Butler. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning to you.
I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you.
Long time.
And with you is the city attorney, Chelsea Brannon. Chelsea, good morning.
Good morning.
This is her first time, Perez.
I think you should play Madonna.
I don't even know where Madonna is now. She's probably retired from the sound bites. It's been a long time. And Trey is I was going to say it's going to be a hangover from the last one. But
we don't need hangovers.
I don't think the word hangover is a good idea right now. So
we don't need a hangover.
Let's dive into this. First of all, from the mayor and your response to this, tell me why you did it, when you did it, and what you expect from what you did.
Well, Paul, anytime there's a question about the regulations of Madison zoning and what has made our city so wonderful, it's no secret that we are Mississippi's premier planned community. We've worked on it for 40 years. Mm-hmm. A whole lot of people have given a whole lot of time to build this wonderful community. We pride ourselves in being Mississippi's safest city and all those good things because we started years ago saying we're building this community for families. And after looking at the initiative and seeing Initiative 65 and learning about the zoning, that's what started all of this. Because if we can't, as a local government, be in control of our own destiny with our zoning and what the people have bought into Madison for, then we're in big trouble. So as we began to dig a little more, and Chelsea looked into it, exactly how is this going to affect us? We looked at, we could not control where the pop shops go. We could not, as signage, we may not can control that. When you're looking at the dispensaries being within 500 feet of a playground, a church, a school, we can't control that.
All right, wait a minute. Are you saying that, in Chelsea, are you saying that the building codes of any community, whether it's Picayune or Poplarville, wherever it happens to be, that they don't have to adhere to the building codes?
Our concern specifically deals with Section 8 of Initiative 65. And if you look at Section 8, and I think Trey has a copy of it there. I know y'all have been talking about it this morning.
Trey, are you looking at it now?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Section 8 specifically is where our concern started, and that is because that section grants, as we read it, a constitutional property right to a specific industry that supersedes the regulatory authority of a municipality. Our zoning authority comes from the state, from the legislature. When you enact a constitutional amendment that overrides and restricts that, our fear was that this initiative, if passed, would preclude the city from utilizing and effectively pursuing our zoning ordinances, our sign ordinances, and other regulatory authority that we have.
I also wonder this, if it's on property that the city owns or there is near a park or anything else, there's no way for you to say you can't do that because it's 500 feet and you can't stop that.
You got a constitutional amendment that is negating all our zoning.
So I can't come to the mayor, I can't come to the governor, I can't come to Trey. All you guys could say as elected officials, sorry, can't help you.
Exactly.
That's right.
And this is what concerns us so much. We're talking about a constitutional amendment that's been given to a business, an industry, that no other industry or business has in this state. They are given privileges that the mom and pops don't have, the people that have worked for years to build their businesses, and they got a blank check to do what they want to in zoning in our communities.
You have been a stickler for this. And a lot of people have beat up you over the years as far as your building codes. They're legendary, but they don't do that anymore because of what Madison is today. So you've got the last laugh on them. But could they come in and put a tin shack there? I mean, as far as the building codes and all of the requirements there, as far as signage and everything else, will you have lost control of that?
I believe it's a free-for-all, and it's a constitutional amendment. This initiative has no business being a constitutional amendment. That's one of the things that's serious. But getting back to why we're here, we were looking at what standing we could have, what we could do regarding protecting our citizens, our schools, our plans, and the future of Madison. Right now, we're making a decision based on something that's going to change the entire horizons of our state and what legacy we're going to leave to our children.
Let me ask Chelsea and also Trey on this one. What about the county part when you move out of the corporate limits of the city? If they say, okay, I'll bypass that, but I'll go to the county area. If it's a commercially zoned area, they can go there, can't
it's
they?
exactly the same as the city.
There's no difference.
It applies. It handcuffs our boards of supervisors just the way it handcuffs our mayors and aldermen.
Chelsea?
I agree with that.
Has anybody ever challenged the initiative process itself?
We are.
Madison.
And that's what brought us to the point we are today.
Have you had anybody call as far as friends of the court or to join in on this one? Or as far as any other municipality?
No, not yet. But we have had other representatives and members of the legislature that would like to. But at this point, I think it's a little late to do that.
Yeah.
Now, this happened quickly because we found it. And the lawyer to my right is the one that found 273 and found the flaw. And I would like to defer to her, if it's okay with you, to explain to you all and to our listeners how serious this is and what she found.
I want to hear it. And also, is that the only thing, though? Are there any other vulnerabilities in that as some of the language is concerned, or was this maybe the most blatant?
Our petition for emergency relief is focused solely on the sufficiency of the process. To the extent that there may be other questions about the constitutional section itself, that is certainly possible, but what we are asking the court is a very limited question. We're asking the court to review the sufficiency of the process for how this proposed amendment is being brought to the voters of Mississippi. And if the court agrees with our argument, we are asking for essentially a writ of prohibition to preclude the Secretary of State from certifying those results based on that flawed process.
So it would still stay on the ballot?
Absolutely. The ballot has been printed. A number of people in the state, I think as you saw at the press conference yesterday, have already cast their vote. You've got our overseas and military voters that through UOCAVA have voted weeks ago. So the question itself won't disappear from the ballot. We're not asking the court to take away anyone's right to vote. What we are asking the court to do is to review the sufficiency of that process to see if the constitutional amendment process itself was appropriately followed, which we assert it was not.
This is going to be taken up by the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court.
It is. The Supreme Court
Is there a timetable on this one?
Absolutely. The Supreme Court, by the constitutional section itself, has exclusive and original jurisdiction to hear this issue. We filed late on Monday. Yesterday, the court issued an order finding that the petition deserved a response, gave the Secretary of State through counsel till 5 o'clock today to answer our petition. And we have asked for emergency review, and we are hopeful the court will address this question before the election.
We're Wednesday. Today's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
When you look at this, when I asked Trey this a little bit earlier, it just doesn't make sense to the layperson, non-lawyer. It doesn't make sense how in the world I could come to somebody and say, sign this petition, and a signature would be enough to change the law and put it in the Constitution without me knowing the precepts or the whole body of what the law says.
Certainly.
It doesn't make sense.
And interestingly,
and if that's the initiative process, we need to stop it.
Interestingly enough, with respect to those signatures, you frequently see over 200,000 people sign those petitions. Less than half of those were even considered by the certification itself to be valid signatures, which means we don't know were they considered invalid because they aren't registered voters, because they aren't registered in the county that they signed in, or because they don't live in the state of Mississippi. We can't answer that question.
Trey, when you start looking at what the legislature needs to do in the 2021 session that would address this, can we talk about that in a second or two?
Sure, be glad to.
Back more with our roundtable here as far as medical marijuana is concerned. Mary Hawkins, Chelsea Brannon, and Chairman of Ways and Means, Trey Lamar. We table here with the mayor of Madison, Mary Hawkins Butler, as well as City Attorney Chelsea Brannon. And the powerful chairman of Ways and Means. Did you realize that when you were powerful chairman of Ways and Means? We can count the number of people that we've had on the air, about 3 or 4 over the years, who were the chairman of Ways and Means.
I'm still trying to figure out where that comes from. I hadn't seen that.
I'll ask Jeff about
they
it.
talk about.
The former powerful chairman of Ways and Means, Trey Lamar. Okay, now we were talking about a sundry of things, but you were going to explain exactly how you found this. And you shall forever be known as Miss Columbo on this one. and tell us a little bit about this.
Well, truthfully, I don't know that I can take individual credit for that. I mean, yes, in the context of our search over our zoning concerns, we began to look through how the initiative process made it onto the ballot. And what I think is so interesting about this is, while yes, we are the first to argue this issue, this amendment, to note, was added to our Constitution. The voter initiative-driven amendment was added in 1992. That's an important date to remember. So this has not been something that's been in effect since the original amendment process. That particular amendment requires a series of things to get an initiative on the ballot. Specifically, the formula is that 12%, you have to have 12% of signatures from the prior governor's election. That's how you determine the requisite number. And then, this is the key, no more than 1/5 of those signatures can come from any congressional district. Okay, so let's back up. In 2000, we had a census that resulted in the loss of a representative for the state of Mississippi. Ultimately, that redistricting was finalized in 2002. Elections occur, and those new representatives take office in 2003. And at that point in time, the Constitution was not amended. The section that governs how a voter-driven initiative to amend our Constitution, they failed to amend it. And I think what's so significant about that is that since that time, there have been 7 different attempts by a member of either the House of Representatives or the Senate of Mississippi, starting as early as 2003, as late as February of this year, to fix this problem.
And I don't know this, I'm looking for outs here. Is there something that the Supreme Court could say would be, and for the lack of legal terms, implied consent? Because when you've dropped the 5th congressional district?
Our argument is that this can only be read as a plain text argument. Mm-hmm. The formula is so specific in Section 273, and for those that want to read it, you've got 2 sections in 273 that give you a process for amending. 273.2 is the legislature's process. 273.3, which is what both 65 and 65A come out of, is the voter-driven initiative process. The language is so specific in that section. The language refers to a past item when it wants to, 12% of the prior governor's election.
So, Trey, your thoughts on this now that you've heard this?
Yeah, no, it's interesting, and you can't be a constitutional originalist and also say that you don't want the Constitution to be strictly construed.
You can't ignore part of it and part you don't.
You can't be fired up about Amy Coney Barrett the last month and then say, oh, well, we don't think this part of our state Constitution should be followed as written. And so I think they got a very good legal argument.
65A has no such requirements because you don't have to have the signatures.
So 65A results out of a process that's actually granted to the legislature. When the petition...
So it doesn't make it vulnerable in this particular case.
It does, and here's why. 65A is essentially an amended version that the legislature has the right to submit if they do not accept the initiative as presented. So it's a domino effect. That's why I pointed out the distinctions between 273.2 and 273.3. 65A was not independently brought to the ballot, such as the flag vote that's currently also on the ballot. That's a different process. So we are asking the court to review the sufficiency of the process as a whole. So that's why
there's nothing retroactive that they have time to do now. They can't go back and get additional signatures. What would they have had to do to put this in order with the Constitution or that amendment that you're talking about?
Well,
additional signatures, or it can't be done because you'd have to rewrite it. The initiative process itself has to be changed.
Exactly. It's a mathematical impossibility.
Who changes that? We have to do that by constitutional edict also, don't we?
The legislature has the authority to correct that language.
Well,
and they have, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean to interrupt, but yes, the legislature could correct it, but it then again would have to go back to a vote of the people statewide. That's the only way to do it. Even when the legislature can't just on its own change the Constitution. You can pass it, then it goes for a vote. It's the same process. And so that highlights the very, very difficult nature of amending the Constitution in our state. So if 65 were to become part of our Constitution and we need to change it, it's going to be extremely difficult to do that.
Chelsea, has this been broached, or have you seen this uttered by other lawyers from the other side anywhere?
The argument that we have received, not directly, but through statements that were issued yesterday, was that the process follows an Attorney General's opinion. And if we could, I want to speak to that for just a minute.
Yeah, and this would be the Attorney General Jim Hood at that time.
It was Attorney General Jim Hood. The opinion is from January of 2009. This very specific question was asked about this mathematical impossibility. And the opinion itself says you can go back and use the districts as they were in 2000. Well, that's essentially amending by opinion our constitutional language.
Yeah.
What I also think is so significant about that opinion is that the last sentence of the opinion says the solution to this is to fix the Constitution. And so I think, when you hear comments about that opinion, no one wants to talk about that last sentence that says the solution is just to fix the language.
Yeah, for people who don't know, and again, Trey, when you talk about an opinion from an Attorney General, it is an opinion.
It's just an opinion. That's it.
So it holds no weight of law as far as that's concerned.
Absolutely not. And even the statute that authorizes the issuance of those opinions contemplates the power of a court to determine that an opinion was manifestly wrong or without a basis. And that's our argument.
So if the Supreme Court of the state of Mississippi decides you are right and they are wrong, and this has to be put on hold, or that the votes can be, they can vote for it, but they'll hold the votes, they're meaningless.
We are asking the court, if they agree with our argument and determine that the process was insufficient, to issue a prohibition to certifying that item on the ballot. It will not affect any other race or election or other ballot initiative that's on the ballot.
So they'll count the votes, and we'll find out, the legislature and everybody else will find out what would have happened, but they cannot be certified, so therefore they cannot be law.
Absolutely.
They would be void.
They would be void. Which means that the state legislature is going to be under the gun. They've got to come up and do this in the 2021 to establish a medical marijuana program.
As I said from the outset this morning, I expect the legislature to do that this next session.
You think you will have the leadership as far as the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker maybe make some type of announcement on that?
I believe that when we're talking about a legitimate medical marijuana program put together by healthcare professionals that's in the best interest of patients who need this help, I believe you will.
Timetable one more time is, and today is Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. The respondent will submit their reply by 5 o'clock today. We anticipate if the court does set a hearing that it will be Friday, and we are hopeful that we will have a ruling before the election.
All right, let's take step two. What happens if they don't rule in your favor?
Well, there is no further appeal at this point, so we'll have to wait to see what happens with the election. I feel very comfortable saying that we're not going to shy away from our concern over the zoning issue, and that is something that we're going to continue to research and explore and to see what our options as a city are for protecting the city.
Since I haven't had the mayor on in a month of Sundays, I think it's been about 4 years, and we always give the free money here, free Chamber of Commerce plug here. What's going on in the city of Madison?
Growing.
You got 10 seconds.
In spite of COVID, we are growing. We're developing our downtown center. We've issued since October, 1,600 building permits. Of course, that includes additions.
When is the downtown area is finally coming into fruition, isn't it?
It's coming into fruition.
What is it going to look like when will it come to fruition?
Well,
5 years, 4 years, 3 years?
I think you'll probably see completion within 6, but you'll see bits and pieces of it. Right now, we've got Half Shell that's open on Main Street, and that part is underway. But we're excited about it.
A lot of good things going on.
A lot of good things. Mississippi's safest city, and we want to keep it that way. And if something happens with that zoning, we're going to Plan B. We're not stopping.
We would expect nothing less from you. Perez and I do want our coupon to half shell, oysters on the half shell. You can leave the coupon with us, and we'll take care of that. Trey, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, downtown Senatobia is not far behind Madison. Come see us one day.
It is. Absolutely.
You can stop on your way home.
I had to get that in.
Also, Chelsea Brannon is no longer a virgin on the air. You did a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. All right, guys, we got Derek Easley coming in, President of BIPAC. We'll talk to him.